Welcome, everyone. I'm Kimberly Boschman, and this is the Intentionally Intuitive podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at life path number 1, and we're going to look at each of the zodiac signs to see how your personal zodiac signs could influence your life path number. So I recommend listening to your sun, moon, and rising for your zodiac signs in order to gain a greater understanding of what you could be working with those influences when it comes to your personal life path number. So I will provide the timestamps down below for each zodiac sign so you can easily get to yours and listen to it. And I will also include the calculations for calculating your life path number if you're not certain what yours is. So let's go ahead and get into each of the zodiac signs. Okay, so let's look at Aries. So if you have Aries, sun, moon, or rising, this is actually really powerful, beautiful energy that really complements your one life path number. So Aries is a fire sign, and some of the higher octaves of Aries is that they are passionate, motivated, very confident with sort of relentless determination. And Aries can also be very direct in their approach, which can assist them, out in the real world. Some of the lower expression of Aries can be that sort of lack of patience, sort of moodiness or mood alteration, quick to anger, impulsivity, sort of aggressiveness, and martyrdom. And so what's interesting is when we take a look at the one life path number, one energy is more of an extroverted energy. It's a little bit more social. It's more sort of in your face, I guess, in a way. And so it really complements that Aries energy. If we look at the life path 1, that's usually more associated with sort of Leo energy. And so it's also considered a fire sign. So you kind of have fire and fire if you've also got Aries, sun, moon, or rising. Some of the positive traits of the 1 are, again, very similar to Aries energy of, able to and willing to take action, taking initiative, assertiveness, inventiveness, being very inventive and using their ingenuity, leadership qualities, independence, willpower and determination, courage, individuality and originality, and also that strong drive to achieve. So you can see how that really correlates with Aries energy. When it comes to the negative traits of the 1, you can sometimes see this sort of over-assertiveness with 1 energy when they're in their shadow, or selfishness, aggressiveness, sort of egotism, and impulsivity. And so again, very similar to Aries energy. So if by chance you were a triple Aries and you had sun, moon, rising Aries, and you were also a life path 1, that is a lot of fire to contend with. And so you would have a lot probably of challenges that would come up that would assist you to help you find your balance, right? And even if you have any of those sort of zodiac influences of Aries, such as sun, moon, or rising, right? Any of those influences coupled with that 1 energy, that's a lot of fire. And so again, if you have any of those, just keep that in mind that, if you feel that really just strong desire to achieve, or, you just feel overly assertive, or, that you were born to be a leader, or whatever the case may be, that's definitely the case if you are a 1 life path. But then it's even sort of more intense or profound when you couple that with any of the Aries energy. And that also goes with sort of the shadow sides. If you are a 1 and you've got that sort of selfishness that you're working through, or you're overly aggressive, or you're sort of really into your ego, right? You're still working through that lower part of yourself, or the impulsivity, right? You can maybe take too many risks or too many high costing risks. And so you couple that with that Aries energy, and that Aries energy is pushing you to sort of do the same thing. So you're going to see a lot of similarities between, again, that sun, moon, rising zodiac sign of Aries and your life path 1. Now keep in mind, you're also going to have other numbers in your chart, your numerology chart, and your astrology chart that will assist, right? That will help to sort of dampen that fire a little bit so that you can work with it. But yeah, if you're an Aries, sun, moon, rising, and you're also a life path 1, you are definitely meant to blaze a path in this lifetime that will lead alongside of others, but that, you're at the forefront. You're the one leading the pack. You're the one creating new and inventive and just ingenious ideas that will assist others. And you've got all that fire behind you to assist. So try to harness that energy the best that you can. That is a lot of power to work with, Aries, in a life path 1. Wow. Taurus, if you are a life path 1 and you have sun, moon, or rising in the sign of Taurus, then this is going to be interesting because it's going to be like your Taurian energy is going to sort of be fuel for the fire that is your life path 1. And it will ground that, it will assist you in grounding that energy. So it's really beautiful energy to work with. So Taurus is an earth sign. And some of the higher expressions of Taurus is that strong desire for social and corporate stability. And that is going to be really powerful energy to work with, especially as a life path 1. So, and I'll get into that in a moment. But Taurus also has sort of this extravagance to their energy and is sort of led towards or drawn towards the finer things in life. They can find contentment and security through their endeavors, or that's what they sort of seek to find. They're often very dependable and dedicated in life and love, right? So very grounded, earthy, strong energy in that sense. Some of the lower expressions of Taurus are that stubbornness, right? Not willing to take risks or leave their comfort zone. So they stay very safe, I guess, or sort of their false sense of security, that false sense of safety, right? It's often difficult for someone who has a lot of Taurus energy to take a lot of risks. And you'll see how that kind of can be a push-pull energy if you're also a life path 1. Some other things with the lower expressions for Taurus is that they can be very predictable and sort of very rigid in their beliefs and their actions. So they're often very set in their ways if they're in their lower expression, and they can sometimes be perfectionists. So what's interesting, if we take that Taurus energy, and again, if you're sun, moon, rising, or all three, you can see how it sort of correlates with this one energy and how it can influence it, right? How you're going to show up to your one life path if you also have these Taurus influences. So with the life path 1 energy is often much more extroverted. Taurus energy, depends, but it feels more introverted in a way. They like that security. They like that sense of, doing habitual things, right? That keeps them sort of safe and not taking a lot of risks. So it's more of like an introverted energy, but 1 energy is really that extroverted energy. It needs to be out in the forefront. It needs to stand up and stand out, right? And so 1 energy is that Leo energy, or the element of fire. And so, if you're in your highest expression when it comes to your 1 life path, you're going to feel the push and the pull to take action, to be, take initiative, to be assertive, to be inventive, to take hold of those leadership qualities that really make up the 1 energy. 1 energy is a lot to do with independence, which is interesting because Taurus energy kind of likes that home life, likes to feels very safe and secure at home. One energy has a lot of willpower and determination and courage, right? And will take risks or is meant to take risks. And again, you've got that Taurus energy that's sort of like, likes to stay in that comfort zone. So if you have Taurus energy, but you're also a life path 1, you can definitely feel that push and pull. One trying to keep you safe, the other saying, we got to step out and step up, right? We need to be leading the crowd, right? Not being a part of the crowd. There's a lot of individuality and originality that comes with life path 1s, and they often have a very strong drive to achieve. So again, if you have sun, moon, rising in Taurus, you're going to feel that push and that pull, and you're going to have to find your happy medium. You're going to have to find your center to be able to work with that energy, so that you're not holding yourself back as a life path 1, but you're also, acknowledging and working with those other sides of yourself, that Taurus energy that is there for a reason, right? It's no mistake that you've got Taurus energy and life path 1 energy. You're meant to find a way in this lifetime to complement the energy, to find ways to complement each other. And just to mention some of the negative aspects of life path 1, or some of the shadow sides of a life path 1, are going to be that being overly assertive, selfishness, aggressiveness, being in your ego too much, or your ego in control, and impulsivity. So what's interesting is you've got this Taurus energy that can be sort of mitigating some of that shadow side, right? So if you are a 1 life path and you are in your shadow, or you haven't overcome a lot of those challenges to help you move beyond those lower expressions, you might be very impulsive, or again, very selfish or overly assertive, or whatever the case may be. But then you've also got that Taurus energy that's like sort of grounding you and, asking you to be a little bit more predictable or rigid in your beliefs if you're in your shadow side of Taurus. So again, it's kind of like the energy is trying to balance you in a way so that you can use the positive attributes of the Taurus energy, that strong desire for social and corporate stability, right? If you couple that with that initiative and assertiveness and inventiveness and leadership qualities of the 1, you've got, 5 stars, you've got a gold medal. I mean, that's just beautiful energy to work with. But it takes moving beyond your lower expressions of both the Taurus energy and the 1 energy, right? So again, Taurus energy is like pushing you for the finer things in life, and to build your stability and security, and, to build a dependable life, and to be dedicated in the things you love and in family and that sort of thing. Then you've got that 1 energy that's more about independence and, again, taking action and being taking the initiative. But what's interesting is you can be independent within a relationship. And so again, that Taurus energy is very beautiful energy for balancing out your 1 energy, so that 1 energy doesn't completely just derail you or take you off kilter. So I actually really like how Taurus energy complements the energy of the 1. Again, it really, I think that would be easier energy to work with. I just read for Aries. I think Aries would be a lot more challenging. So if you have Aries, sun, moon, rising, make sure you listen to that one, because, that's fire and fire. You've got all this action energy. But with the Taurus energy, I like that it's earth, earth energy. It's very grounded. It's very stable. And so again, it can give you sort of the legs that you need to, ground your big ideas, to figure out how to do something with them, how to step into that leadership role. Where it could hurt you or kind of hinder you is if you become too comfortable and too afraid to step beyond that comfort zone. Because 1 energy, when you're in your highest expression of 1, you are completely meant to be outside of your comfort zone. You have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so that's where you're going to feel some push and pull. And, that can take you a little bit longer to step into your 1 life path if you've got the Taurus energy sort of overly grounding you, right? So, but overall, really beautiful complementary energy to work with. for ones. Geminis, if you have Gemini, sun, moon, or rising, and you're also a life path number 1, then let's take a look to see how that Gemini energy sort of complements or influences your life path 1 energy. So Gemini is an air sign. Geminis are very adaptable and typically easygoing. They're often very intelligent and, again, outgoing and social, perceptive, analytical, and inquisitive. And they can be very highly passionate towards the things that they feel drawn to, right? Like career, relationships, whatever. Some of the lower aspects of the Gemini is indecisiveness, impulsivity, unreliability at times, difficulty in planning, and a tendency to be inconsistent in many areas of their lives. And again, that's the lower expression, so they work to overcome those shadows. But what's interesting is some of those lower expressions are actually assisting you with your 1 life path. And particularly, I'm looking at the impulsivity, right? Like sometimes we can be overly impulsive. But what's interesting is, if you can find a way to balance that energy then and mitigate it to where you can work with it, then the impulsivity is actually a really good attribute to help you step into your 1 energy, where you're meant to stand up and stand out in the crowd and take risks and be impulsive and be spontaneous. So that's kind of interesting. But let's take a look at the 1 energy. So 1 energy is typically very extroverted. And Geminis are too. Geminis are very social creatures. So if you have sun, moon, rising in Gemini, then more than likely you have some sort of extroverted energy within you. You couple that with the 1 energy, and it just layers it, right? Like, because again, 1 energy is extroverted. It's meant to be, or at least maybe not socially extroverted, right? Like maybe you are a homebody, but your work is sort of extroverted, or what you do in life is out in the public eye, or assists the public in some way, or assists others in some way, right? So there's some level of being an extrovert there. And so that Gemini energy will assist the 1 energy in, again, being more social and being very outgoing and adaptable, right? Which is something the 1 needs. And so if we look at what typically 1 energy is associated with, it would be more Leo energy, so very fire energy. And so what's interesting is air gives fire life, right? And so again, that Gemini really is a beautiful influence to this 1 energy, to your 1 life path. So some of the positive traits of 1s is are taking action, taking the initiative, being assertive, being inventive, taking those leadership qualities and running with them. 1s can be very independent, and they're meant to be very independent because you're not meant to do things the way that it's always been done. You're meant to create something new and exciting. And that's what's beautiful with the Gemini energy coming in, because Gemini, in its nature is very inquisitive, right? And analytical and perceptive, and wants to learn and learn the ins and outs of everything, which is very complementary to that 1 energy that is meant to be creating something that's never been seen before, right? And so you have to have that inquisitive nature in order to be able to do that. So again, very complementary energy with Gemini. And some of the other things that we see in the 1 life path is, when you're in your higher expression, is that willpower and determination and that courage to do things that hasn't been done before. You see a lot of individuality and originality with life path 1s. And there's also that really strong drive to achieve. And so again, when you couple that with that Gemini energy, which is very, highly passionate about what they want to be involved in, or what they are involved in, or what calls to them, right? Again, they're very intelligent and adaptable and perceptive. And so again, these all just marry each other very, very well. So again, if you have Gemini, sun, moon, or rising, those higher expressions of Gemini work beautifully with the higher expressions of the one. Some of the things that might kind of trip you up a little bit with Gemini and one energy is the negative traits or the lower expressions. And so with a one, you have those lower expressions of being overly assertive, right? And sort of isolating yourself because, you're just so assertive that people don't know how to work with that energy, right? And sometimes you can come across as selfish or overly aggressive. There's sometimes a level of egotism that's involved with, lower sides of one, where they just think, they're the bee's knees. And, usually you are the bee's knees. You're the one that's out there inventing these things that are going to, make a difference in a lot of people's lives potentially. And so you can see how you can fall into that sort of egoic state, but they're, too much of a good thing, right? And another negative attribute or negative shadow to the one is that impulsivity if you take it to the extreme. And that's also something that we see in Gemini, where it's like that difficulty in planning or inconsistency, or they're so impulsive that, again, they can't sort of focus on one thing and their energy or their focus gets completely shattered, right? And scattered. And so same thing for a one, you've got to be focused. You have to, figure out the vision, figure out the goal, and then dedicate yourself to achieving that goal. And a lot of times it's going to be a goal that is completely different than anything anybody's ever seen before. So you can a lot of times get a lot of self-doubt with that, right? And so again, if you are sort of too in your head or, not grounded enough to be able to sort of see the vision, hold the vision and move towards it, and you become sort of too indecisive or too impulsive or too unreliable, which are some of those Gemini lower expressions, that can trip you up, right? And so if you have Gemini sun, moon, or rising, and you find yourself, and you also have a life path one, and you find yourself really struggling with being decisive or, too impulsive, or if people have told you that you're unreliable, that's an issue, right? Like ones have to be reliable. Ones are the ones who are at the forefront driving the train. And so we need to know that train's going to be at the station and that it's going to take off on time and get us to where we need to be. And that sounds like a lot of responsibility, but it is, right? But that's what you signed up for. And so, those negative traits aren't bad. It's just that when they show up, they're showing you something that you can learn about yourself so that you can move into your more elevated traits, your more elevated characteristics that will help you to get the job done and help you to step into your life path number in this lifetime, right? And to sort of master what you came here to master. Same thing with the Gemini energy. It's like the lower expressions of Gemini are not bad. They're just assisting you to see, to find your way towards the higher expressions of that energy. So overall, I really like how Gemini energy complements the one energy, especially with, being adaptable, because you have to be adaptable when you're one energy. You're just going to be, have your hands in a lot of different pots. You're going to be learning different things. You're going to be like trying to figure out, especially if you have a big project that you want to accomplish, you have to have an open mind, right? You have to be open to what comes in and trying to work and figuring out how to work with it. If you're too rigid, you're going to miss it, right? And so the Gemini energy is very beautiful energy with one because it's very adaptable, easygoing, very intelligent, right? And so, and that outgoing and social aspect of Gemini is also beautiful because that will help you for networking and, sharing your story or helping to get people on board to assist you in creating whatever this is that you want to create as a one. So overall, I love the complementary nature of the Gemini sun, moon, rising with the life path one. So beautiful energy to work with. If you can just be mindful of those shadow aspects, right? And you'll know when you're in your shadow because that's when the majority of the challenges show up, right? It's like, and so it's going to show you where it is that maybe there needs to be an adjustment or a shift. Okay. So beautiful energy to work with if you are Gemini, sun, moon, rising, and also life path number one. Okay, Cancers. If you are a Cancer, sun, moon, rising, and also a life path number one, then this reading is for you. So this is interesting because if you're Cancer, Sun, Moon, Rising, especially Sun, because that's really like your core energy, then I anticipate you will probably be feeling quite a bit of push and pull throughout your lifetime between these energies, because Cancer energy is more introverted and one energy is more extroverted. And I'm going to explain this in a second, but you'll kind of see how there can be a very clear push and pull here. It's okay though, because you can work with it and it's teaching you something. So keep that in mind, right? You chose these signs for a reason. And the astrology works with the numerology hand in hand. So, but interesting dynamic here. So let's dive into it. So Cancer is a water sign. Cancers, typically in their highest expression are very nurturing. They're very sensitive. It's not only to their environment, but also to, higher realms, right? Like Cancers are very often very intuitive and very psychic. They're usually very compassionate, and they usually will be very security seeking, and so enjoy home life or enjoy family life, like that safety and security of the home. And they often will seek deep and intimate connections, right? They're very loyal, very protective, and again, as I mentioned, very intuitive and psychic. Some of the lower expressions of Cancer can be that they're withdrawn, right? More of a loner, overly emotional, moody, or overly sentimental. And so they sort of get stuck in the past a little bit, or stuck in their feelings about the past. They can sometimes be vindictive, right? And so, again, this is a lower expression. And then some of them can be really lacking that emotional maturity, where they just haven't, because they're so emotional and so sensitive, they just haven't figured out how to really work with that energy, right? Work with those emotions and allow those emotions to work for them. And so what's interesting is kind of keep that in mind as we talk about the Life Path 1 energy, because again, with that Cancer energy, just think it's very sensitive, it's very nurturing, it's very inclusive. Again, it likes its security. It's very loyal and protective, which is beautiful energy as well. But just keep that in mind as we move into the energy of the 1. So the 1 is very extroverted energy. It's very much like Leo energy, or it's fire sign, okay? So it's that fiery action energy. So you can kind of already start to see where there would be this push and this pull, right? 1 life path, that is your core energy, right? Just like if you have a Cancer sun, that sun energy is your core. And so you're going to feel that very, very strongly. You're going to feel it throughout your lifetime. And so you have to find a way to mitigate these energies or sort of moderate them so that you can work with them. But 1 energy is very extroverted. It's very Leo fire energy. And that doesn't mean that as a person, you are an extroverted person and very social, right? There's a lot of 1s who are very introverted in their social aspects. But when it comes to their work, it becomes very extroverted. And I guess an example of that would be like Steve Jobs. Like, I don't know him, obviously, or I didn't know him, right? But personally, he kind of seemed a little bit more reserved, more introverted. But obviously, he's the creator of Apple, and so you can see his work was very extroverted. It was very out there. So if we look at the positive aspects of the 1, we have this energy of like taking action, taking initiative, being assertive, being very inventive, right? We think of Steve Jobs, he invented something that changed the world. Leadership qualities, independence, willpower and determination, courage, individuality and originality, and a strong drive to achieve. So if you think of all of those characteristics or all those traits, and then you look at the traits of Cancer, right? If you've got Cancer, Sun, Moon, or Rising, it's almost like this very masculine energy, and the Cancer energy being very feminine energy. And so again, that's what I mean. Neither are bad, right? They're both assisting you in getting to where it is that you wanted to, get to in this lifetime. But you have to find a way to balance them. Just like we have to find ways to balance our feminine and masculine energies from within that we all have. I think for you all, because you have such sort of polarizing energies to work with, and they're at your core. I mean, sun, moon, rising, those are signs that affect you. Those are energies that affect you every single day. And same thing with your life path number. You feel those influences every single day of your life. And so again, you just have to find ways to work with them. There's a reason why your soul came here with this very one energy that's very fire and active and, just very assertive energy, coupled with that Cancerian energy that's much more softer, much more emotive, right? So it's just a matter of figuring out how to work with it and let it work for you rather than against you. Some of the negative aspects of the one, or negative traits that you sort of need to overcome in this lifetime, are being overly assertive, right? Just sort of pushing your way onto other people and, trying to force them to see your vision or whatever the case may be. Selfishness comes up, aggressiveness, egotism, and impulsivity. And so again, it's like that energy of just invading other people's space with your ideas or your energy, right? But what's interesting is it's interesting because the negative traits of the one are very in your face, very forward. But the negative or lower expressions of Cancer are very withdrawn, or can be overly emotional, but it's very sensitive, right? But if you couple that moodiness, or again, being overly emotional or lacking that emotional maturity, and you couple that with the negative traits of the one, which is that aggressiveness or selfishness or over-assertiveness, you can see how that would be a lot to sort of take on, right? And to work with. And so, again, those negative traits of, any energy are just simply showing up because there's something to learn there. There's something to pull from it. There's some wisdom to obtain. And so they show up when there's a challenge to overcome and a lesson to learn. So neither of them are going to be bad. The Cancerian or the one energy, the lower expressions, they're not bad. They're there to assist you in leveling up to the higher expression or the higher octave of those signs. So, but it's interesting because, like I said, what I see here for you, again, if you have Cancer, Sun, Moon, Rising, and also Life Path 1, is that you are going to really struggle throughout your lifetime to find your balance, right? Because you are meant to, if you came here as a 1, you are meant to blaze a trail. You are meant to stand out in the forefront. You are meant to, be a leader in some capacity. But if you've got that Cancer energy, you're going to feel that pull from within to stay sort of hidden, right? To, not be out in the spotlight, to not ignite that fire and do all those things. Not saying that there's anything wrong with Cancer energy. Cancer energy is beautiful. Again, it's very intuitive. It's very psychic. It's very feminine. It's beautiful, beautiful energy. It's very needed energy. But that one energy, like I said, it's very action-oriented, very driven, very masculine. And so you just have to find your balance. What I do love about the two that really complement each other is that the loyalty and the protectiveness of, and the intuitiveness of Cancer, right? You need that intuitiveness to be able to step out and do things that haven't been done before, because ones can have a lot of self-doubt. But if you're following your intuition, which if you're a Cancer, Sun, Moon, Rising, you're going to have that just sort of innate, you're going to be very sensitive to that intuitiveness, right? And you're probably going to be pretty plugged into it. So I think it's going to be a little bit easier for you than it would be for some of the other signs to be able to follow that intuition towards the vision, right? Instead of worrying about what other people are thinking, you would be able to follow your inner compass to take you to, the vision, to take you to where it is that you want to get to. So there's a lot of beauty in having Cancer, Sun, Moon, Rising, and being a Life Path 1. You just have to find ways to not fight those energies, to not let those energies fight each other, right? To be able to find the balance and work with them to the best of your ability to find your balance, right? And so that you're taking the higher octaves of both the one and the Cancer energy to work together. Because I'll tell you what, if you can do that, then you're going to be such a holistic, just a really whole one, right? You're going to be very balanced with your masculine and feminine, and those are going to work together to, just set you on fire and let you get to, where your soul came here to be. So again, it's not a mistake that you've got Cancer energy and One energy. Even though they're sort of polarizing, they're sort of on the opposite ends of the spectrum. It's actually really beautiful. And, finding your balance in that work, working with that One energy and working with that Cancerian energy will actually make you a very well-rounded individual and really probably expedite your balancing of the divine feminine and divine masculine energies from within, which is something that we all struggle to do. And so it's like you almost came here with the plan to do that. Like that's like like I said, you've got those energies swirling about within you very, very strongly. So I actually really like it. I think it's going to be a little bit more work for you all to find that balance and to, just kind of find your equilibrium. But if you can do that, you are set up. You are good to go, right? Like you're just miles ahead of the game. So I actually really, really like it. I think there's really beautiful complementary energy with that Cancerian energy that complements the ones and really helps with the idea, right? Because you think of that feminine energy being very creative, right? And so you need that if you're going to be, if you're going to use your ingenuity and be inventive, you've got to have that level of creativity. And that's a beautiful thing too about Cancers is there's a lot of creativity there. There's a lot of creative life force. So this is really, I could almost see you doing something that would have like something to do with the arts maybe, and that would really just push you to the forefront and create something that assists people in the arts or whatever, that just makes life easier or whatever, right? Whatever the case may be. But I see this as a really powerful combination. So if you, I'd be curious if you have Cancer, Sun, Moon, or Rising in your life path 1, comment in the comment section below, because I would love to hear, what your experience has been, or sort of how you've seen those influences come up and how you've kind of worked with them. If you feel comfortable sharing, I think that would be really interesting to hear, and you would help some other folks out there who also have Cancer, Sun, Moon, or Rising, and are also life path 1. So anyway, so that's what I see, but beautiful actually energy to work with there. Not saying it's necessarily going to be entirely easy, but once you figure it out, once you get your sort of, get on your roll and find your equilibrium, I don't think there's going to be any stopping you. So, all right, take care. Leos. Okay, this is interesting because for you all, we'll just tell you before I get into the reading, life path 1s, that energy is actually Leo energy. It is a fire energy. And so for you all, if you have Leo's, Sun, Moon, or Rising, or all 3, then that is a lot of fire to work with. And so though at first glance, it would be like, oh, that's very complementary. The reality of that is that you're going to have a little bit of a challenge to sort of keep that fire from getting out of control. Okay, so let's get into it. This is going to be interesting. So for Leos, Sun, Moon, Rising, Leo is of course a fire sign. Some of the higher octaves of Leo are that they are natural leaders. They're very driven. They're very compassionate with big hearts, right? Big lion hearts. They can be very generous with their time, their energy, and their money. And they're usually very self-assured, right? They know what they want, they know how to get it. And they're usually very confident when they're in their higher expression. Some of the lower expressions of Leo are, you can be very egoic, very egotistical, stubborn, arrogant, dominating, possessive, jealous, pompous, or very self-absorbed. And what's really interesting is if you look at the energy of the life path 1, it's pretty much the same thing. You've got the fire energy, you've got the extroverted energy, right? People who are 1s, whether they are personally extroverted, or not, their work is typically, how they present themselves to the world in career or purpose is meant to be extroverted. It's meant to be out there, right? Some of the positive traits of a 1 are very similar to Leo. It's, taking action, initiative, assertiveness, inventiveness, leadership qualities, independence, willpower and determination, courage, individuality and originality, and a strong drive to achieve. So if you look at the attributes of the Leo, sun, moon, or rising is pretty much exactly the same. So it is just compounded. If you came here with Leo, sun, moon, or rising, and you're also a life path 1, you can guarantee that your soul was like, we are doing this. We are going to master this 1 energy in this lifetime. I don't care what happens. And so, and we've got the Leo energy to back it up. And so again, it's just a lot of fire energy, a lot of action, a lot of very masculine energy. And so you just have to be really careful that you are finding ways to incorporate the more feminine energies into your life. And what I would say is, I would have to obviously look at your numerology report, but I would say that if you have a life path 1, you typically would have more feminine, sort of introverted, more still kind of energies, more numbers that complement this energy, so that it's not just all fire, right? But if if your astrology is sun, moon, rising Leo, any or all, you've got a lot of fire that you're working with. And so again, it's just making sure that you're carrying that fire. I don't want to say extinguisher, because you came here with the intention to have a lot of fire behind you. But you just want to find ways to create some boundaries so that fire doesn't create a forest fire and get out of control, right? Some of the negative aspects of the 1, again, are very similar. They're almost like mirror images to the Leo, which is just overassertiveness, selfishness, aggressiveness, egotism, and impulsivity. So again, if you are in your shadow side of your Leo, sun, moon, rising, and your 1 life path, you got a lot to work through, right? And there's nothing bad with the lower expressions. Those lower expressions are where we see most of our challenges, right? If we're in our shadow, if we're in our lower expression, then that's where we're going to see a lot of our challenges come up, to help us to elevate ourselves, right? To learn what we need to learn from those challenges so that we can elevate up to a higher expression, so that we can elevate up to those more positive traits, so that they can work for us as opposed to against us. But if you are currently someone who is in your lower expression of both your Leo and your life path 1 energies, then you probably are facing some serious challenges right now. You probably have a lot going on where, in relationships, with money, with resources, just life in general, where you probably feel like, things are always happening to you. And they're probably very challenging to overcome. But as you continue to sort of, if you can lean into those challenges and see what they're trying to show you, it will be much easier to work through them to step up to the higher expression. But this is powerful. So the good thing about having Leo, sun, moon, or rising with a life path 1 is, like I said, your soul came here determined to stand out in the world, to be inventive in some way, to create something that is, going to assist humanity in some way. If you've got that much fire, I would anticipate you did not come here to be small. You came here to, be famous, be out in the spotlight in some way. So very interesting energies, very powerful energies. The biggest struggle for you all, I think, is going to be just finding ways to harness your fire, to find ways to harness that energy and to work with it so that it doesn't get out of control. Because if it gets out of control, that can kind of lead you down a road to where you start to have self-doubt, or really, you just start to fall into your negative shadows. But if you can find ways to harness that fire, that Leo energy and that 1 energy, like I said, you are going to be unstoppable. You're going to be unstoppable. You don't want that to lead you to a place where you burn yourself out, obviously. So you're going to have to find ways to rejuvenate and rest and fall into the stillness. Because remember, you also need that creativity. You're meant to be, inventive in this lifetime. And so in order to do that, you have to have that creative energy flowing through you. Creative energy is a feminine energy. Leo energy and this one energy, I would say, or definitely the one energy is very masculine energy. It's very action oriented. So for you all with that much fire, you're going to have to find ways to really, like I said, just find your balance. You have a lot, like I said, I would be really surprised if your soul didn't achieve everything it came here to achieve in this lifetime. And, I can't say that for everybody. That's something where it's like, a lot of times we come here with our soul comes here with these ambitions of like, I want to step into this energy in this lifetime and master it. But then we also have free will. And a lot of times we don't end up doing that. And then we just come back and try it again. But for you all that have Leo, Sun, Moon, Rising, and also Life Path 1, yeah, I would say that your soul is like, we're doing this. We're going to find a way. So it's really powerful energy. And so if you just feel, if you have those aspects, if you're Sun, Moon, Rising, Leo, and a Life Path 1, if you feel that just intense drive or just that determination, or, you want to take a lot of risks or whatever, I would say you're very supported to do that, right? Like not to the point where you run yourself ragged or burn yourself out, obviously, or, where it becomes unhealthy. But I would say that you are very supported in following whatever vision, whatever goal you get in this lifetime. There's no question. I mean, you're meant to be a leader and, step out there, step up and step out for real. So powerful energy. If you have Leo and a Life Path 1, beautiful energy, but a lot to work with. So, but you're capable of it because otherwise your soul wouldn't come here with all that fire. So you got this. So beautiful energy, guys. All right. Take care. Virgos. Okay. If you are a Virgo Sun, Moon, or Rising, and you are also a Life Path number 1, then this reading is for you. So Virgos. Virgo is an earth sign. Virgo in their highest expression are typically very humble, practical, industrious, kind, empathetic. I know a lot of Virgos, and they seriously have some of the biggest hearts I've ever seen. They're just such kind humans. Virgos can be very methodical and quick thinkers, right? They like to know the ins and outs of things. They're typically pretty hardworking and very responsible. And again, those big hearts is just like this beautiful earth energy of like, yeah, just those big, beautiful hearts. Some of the lower expressions of Virgo can be overly critical of not only themselves, but others. They can be perfectionists, overly systematic and rigid, sort of in their thinking and their actions. They can sometimes fall into pessimism or be very pessimistic and very stubborn. I know a lot of Virgos, and they can be very stubborn. And overly meticulous, like things have to be just so, right? And again, that's sort of a lower expression because as they continue to move through life, they eventually, if they work with it, right, can find their balance where they can go with the flow a little bit more. But that's generally an overview of Virgo higher and lower expressions. What's interesting is if you're a Virgo Sun, Moon, or Rising, and you're also a Life Path 1, and I'm going to go over the traits of the 1 in a second, but your energy is, that part of your energy, the Virgo side of yourself is very grounding, which is very helpful. Like you're almost providing the kindling for this one energy to take off, right? Your one life path to take off. So it's actually really complementary, even though it might seem a little bit like push and pull. It's actually very complementary energy for one another. So the Life Path 1, if you are Sun, Moon, Rising, Virgo, and you are a Life Path 1, One energy is very extroverted, right? Virgo energy, I would say, is probably more introverted. Not everybody, but it just has that more like, it just seems more sort of introverted to me. But one energy is definitely extroverted. It's that Leo kind of energy. It's a fire energy. It's about action. Some of the positive traits of the one are, again, action-oriented and taking initiative, being assertive, being inventive, leadership qualities, independence, willpower and determination, having courage and sort of individuality and originality, and then that strong drive to achieve. Where you can see that those positive traits sort of complement each other with the Virgo and the one is the one is going to keep things grounded and practical and very sort of industrious, right? And so that Virgo energy is going to be very methodical, but they're also quick thinkers. It's not like they're slow movers. Like they're Virgos are quick thinkers, and it's actually very complementary energy, the Virgo with the one, because the one energy in its lower expression can be sort of overly assertive or overly aggressive or impulsive, right? Overly impulsive or stuck in their ego, right? But then you have that Virgo energy coming in that, again, is very humbling, very practical, keeps the one energy very grounded, allows the one energy to take action and use that assertiveness and that inventiveness and be that leader, but they're going to do it with a big heart. They're going to do it in a methodical way. And they're also hardworking and responsible. So again, you can see how they all work together really, really beautifully. And that Virgo energy is going to sort of counteract those more negative traits of the one of, again, impulsivity. The Virgo is almost going to be like, nope, we've got to really be methodical about this. We need to think this through. We need to take a risk, but take a calculated risk, right? And so there's going to be that very logical side of the brain, but then also Virgo energy to me feels very feminine. So it's kind of like you also have that feminine energy with the more masculine energy of the one, again, balancing each other out and finding that middle ground, right? Finding your equilibrium. And so it's actually, like I said, it's very, very complementary. You can get a lot done as a one with Virgo energy behind you, and you can get it done right the first time. That's probably something that's, a lot of the other signs might not have. And so again, if you have Virgo, sun, moon, rising, and you are also a one, then yeah, it might take you a little bit longer to achieve what it is that your one energy wants to achieve, but that's okay, right? Because you think of fire energy and it can just burn very quickly and rapidly. And sometimes that's not always a good thing, because then you end up where you want to be, but you've burnt everything off behind you, and you just kind of can miss some steps and have to backtrack and clean up a little bit. But if you have that Virgo energy working with you, then you also are very, like I said, very methodical, very practical, logical, meticulous, as long as you're not like overly meticulous, because that can slow you down, but and not being too stubborn. That could be something that could hinder you a little bit if you are sort of in that shadow side of the Virgo energy and you're too systematic or too rigid or too stubborn. That can trip you up a little bit. That can hold you back. That can hold back that one energy, because the one energy wants to go. The one energy wants to just do it. It gets the idea and it wants to make it happen. But if you're too rigid in because you have to have some level of like creativity in this one energy. You have to be able to, if you're inventing something, if you're creating something, there has to be some level of ambiguity. It has to be like, okay, I'm going to go with the flow here a little bit. I know what I want. I'm going to be meticulous in how I achieve it, but I'm also going to be open and open-minded to what comes in that I can work with to make it happen. So that's why I say, like, if you have that Virgo energy and you're in your lower expression and you're too systematic and too rigid or too stubborn, you can slow yourself down, basically, is what I'm saying. So it's kind of like if you find yourself like as a one, you have this big idea and you want to implement it, but then you find yourself like it's just taking forever because you've created 5 billion steps to do it because you want to make sure that it's quote unquote perfect. Then you're holding yourself back at that point, right? And so you have to be careful with that Virgo energy, that you're not trying to be a perfectionist with your one energy, because the one energy is that energy of like, I'm going to just throw all these things against the wall and see what sticks. And the things that stick, I'm going to work with, and the things that don't, I'm not going to, and I'm going to move on. I'm not going to, worry about it. So again, there's that level of impulsivity, but then also you can take that to an extreme too. So it's just finding your balance. But if you find as a one that things are moving really slow, or you're not seeing any progress, or you're stuck, and you're a Virgo, it could be that you're tripping yourself up. You're holding yourself back because you're just trying to make it too sterile, right? And really with one energy, it's just supposed to be a creative mess until it comes together, right? A lot of like trial and error, basically. And that can be really uncomfortable for Virgo energy, trial and error, right? Because it's not always going to be just neat and clean. So just keep that in mind. That's where you could kind of see a little bit of push-pull, a little bit of some challenges come up for you if you're Virgo, Sun, Moon, Rising, and you're also a one. But nothing you can't work with. And like I said, for the most part, Virgo energy is very complementary to one energy. So if you're a Virgo and you're a one, chances are you are well on your way to achieving some big things in this lifetime that have the possibility of impacting and assisting and helping other people along the way. So beautiful, beautiful energy. I like it. I like it a lot. All right, Virgos and ones, take it easy, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now. Libras. Okay, if you are a Libra, Sun, Moon, Rising, and you're also a life path number 1, then this reading is for you. So Libra is air energy. Okay, life path 1 energy is a fire energy. And so air gives life to fire, right? So these energies are actually pretty complementary as long as you can find your balance with them. So with Libra energy, in its highest expression, we see the diplomat, right? They're very diplomatic. They're the peacemakers. They're very fair. They can be very idealistic. They are usually very social and friendly. They're typically very intelligent, and they like to find the solutions to problems, and often they do so with ease, right? Libras can be very forgiving, very trustworthy and very tactful. And all of those characteristics play beautifully into the one energy. Those are all characteristics you need to be able to stand out and stand up in a crowd and to do things differently, right? Without stepping on toes, without creating chaos, without, being too in your ego, that sort of thing. And so that diplomacy that Libras are very sort of are innately able to present, right? It's like, that is very beautiful energy when it comes to one energy, because you're going to have to be diplomatic as a one sometimes as you're creating these things that have never been seen before, or blazing a new trail or whatever. So, you're going to find yourself needing to be the peacemaker at times, especially if you're in a leadership role. And the fact that Libras are when they're in their higher expression, are very idealistic. That is something that really assists that one energy, because again, ones are all about inventiveness, right? And being a leader, but doing something that's never been done before, and having to believe in themselves enough to believe that it's possible. And so that idealistic nature really comes into play here. And so to have that as a Libra, Sun, Moon, or Rising, and bring that to the table of this life path 1, is really very complementary. So it's very, very beautiful. Some of the lower expressions of the Libra energy can be that they can be moody, they can be dishonest, they can be indecisive or very needy, right? They can be egotistical, they can be self-indulgent, untrustworthy, detached, and unemotional. They can also sometimes be vain or selfish, right? And again, it's a lower expression. It's not that that's really who they are. It's just that they're stuck in that sort of lower expression in their and will face challenges to rise above that, right? With the life path 1, some of those negative traits, I'll go over the positive traits of the 1 in just a second, but just to show you kind of how they kind of fall together, the negative traits of the 1 are overassertiveness, selfishness, aggressiveness, egotism, impulsiveness, right? And so that ego can get in the way in a big way when you have that Libra energy and the one energy, and they're both at their lower expression. So, and also the dishonesty, right? Like that's something that it's like, if you're in your lower expression of Libra, sun, moon, or rising, and then you're also in your one lower energy and you're being dishonest in any way, because ones are meant to sort of gain the public's trust or gain their clients' trust. Because like I said, one energy is typically more your like entrepreneur energy, or you can work for somebody, but you're blazing a trail. You're doing something inventive, something that hasn't been done before. You're creating something that will assist the greater population, whether that's your colleagues or your family or your greater community or the world, right? And so there has to be a level of trust in what you're doing, right? And like how you're presenting yourself. And so if you're Libra and you haven't stepped up to your higher expression yet, and you're kind of in that lower expression of being dishonest about things or trying to make things work in your favor, and in doing so you have to be dishonest type thing, right? Or you're indecisive or whatever. It's going to create issues for your Life Path 1 platform. You see what I'm saying? So you can see how they will feed into each other beautifully, the Libra into the one energy, unless you're in your lower expression of both. Then that can be a little bit challenging, and that's okay, right? Like, we face those challenges again so that we can rise above into our higher expression. So let me just go over the one real quick so that you have an idea of kind of what you're working with. So again, the one energy is very extroverted energy. And, the Libra energy, it may not be extroverted, but it's very friendly. And again, it's social usually, because it's that mediator. It's the peacemaker, right? It's like, it's usually the one who's like working with others to come to an understanding, to find common ground, right? So there's some level of being extroverted there as well. Now, with the one energy, again, I say this because it's like, it's not necessarily that the one person is an extrovert socially, but the one's place in the world, their work, their purpose is very extroverted, right? Because again, they're meant to be doing something, creating something that hasn't been done before. And that's no easy task. But in order to do that, obviously you can't be a hermit living in the mountains somewhere. Or if you are, somehow your work has to get out to the public, if that makes sense. So you kind of need those very friendly, sociable, fair, diplomatic energies of the Libra. So that's what it means. It works very beautifully together. Some of the, or let me also mention, if I don't think I have, but the one energy is also more like Leo energy. It's very fire energy. So if you had to place an element on it, it would be fire. Very action oriented. And so, like I said, Libra being air gives life to fire. So it's very complementary in that way. Some of the positive traits of the one are, again, taking action, taking initiative, being assertive, inventiveness, leadership qualities, independence, willpower and determination, having courage, having that individuality and that originality, and a strong drive to achieve. So again, if you're a Life Path 1 and you have this strong desire to achieve, and you have to be courageous. And I'm not saying that everybody comes out of the womb and they're in these positive traits. Of course not, because again, this is a Life Path number. This is something that will be with you for your entire life. And so you're going to face challenges to help you get, again, step up and elevate into this higher expression of yourself. Same thing with the Libra energy. If you're Libra, sun, moon, or rising, you're not just going to be born into, knowing how to work with those higher expression energies. You have to kind of step into them through the challenges of the lower expressions, right? And so, again, you've got, you may find yourself in some of the negative traits of the one and some of the negative traits of the Libra, and that's okay. because again, you will face challenges that will help to elevate you and pull wisdom from those experiences. But overall, you can see how the higher level characteristics of the Libra, the diplomacy, the peacemaker, being fair, being idealistic, being social and friendly, right? Being intelligent. And what I love about the Libra is that the need to find solutions to problems and doing so with ease. I love that about Libra and how that ties in with one energy, because ultimately that is what the one is trying to do, is to find solutions to bigger problems, and having sort of the ingenuity and the inventiveness and the leadership qualities to be able to do that. So you can see how the Libra really complements the one energy. So again, if you have Libra sun, moon, or rising, then your soul was like, we want to accomplish this in this lifetime, this one energy, this one life path. And so we're going to give you these characteristics, these traits of the Libra to assist you in doing that innately, right? Which is just really beautiful energy. Again, where you could get tripped up, of course, like all of us, is if you're heavily into those lower expressions. So for Libra, if you're heavily into sort of that moodiness or being dishonest or being indecisive, because one thing that does not go hand in hand very well with one energy is indecisiveness. With one energy, you have to be decisive. And sometimes with that one energy, there's the issue of maybe becoming too impulsive. And so you just have to make sure that the decisions that you're making, and if you're being impulsive or taking risks, that you're doing that from a place that's very decisive, that you're doing it from a place that feels good for you and that is driven by a sort of, your inner knowing, I guess, as opposed to being influenced by an outside source, because that's the other thing with one. Ones aren't meant to be influenced. Ones are meant to be the influencers, right? And that's, not saying that you're meant to like manipulate people into believing what you believe. That's not what I'm saying. But you're meant to create something, do something, achieve something, inspire in some way that is assisting others in some way, that is finding the solutions to the problems. And again, it's very beautiful that you have this Libra energy to work with, because like I said, that air energy of Libra is really fueling the fire, quite literally, to the one energy. So it's really, really beautiful. It's just, again, just that if you find yourself sort of in those lower expressions, and I will say, the lower expression of Libra can be selfishness. And one thing about the one, because you can also fall into selfishness with one energy, and you're really meant to be like this leader, but leading alongside of others, right? Because nobody's going to listen to or pay attention to or want to be a part of something that's being put forth by somebody who's very selfish and egotistical, right? And who's very self-absorbed. Nobody's really going to want to deal with that energy. So it's kind of like if you're seeing things not move forward for you, because really you have so much powerful, beautiful energy you're working with here with the Libra and the one, that you should be seeing some forward progress, right? Like you came here to stand up and stand out. So and you have the tools to do that. So if you see that you're not, or that you're alienating yourself from people, or that you're not really getting your work out there, or you're not getting you don't feel like you're contributing in some way or solving those problems, then you might want to take a closer look at yourself and see maybe you are in some of those lower vibrations, right? And again, it's not a bad thing. It's just that you will continue to see challenges or lack of movement if you're in those lower vibrations, and you're meant to find ways to get out of them, to overcome them, to move on, to move beyond, right? And you have everything you need to be able to do that. You just will face challenges that will assist you to be able to do that. So anyway, overall, I absolutely love, love, love Libra energy, sun, moon, rising with one energy. I think it's very, very complementary. I think it's very, it assists you beautifully. It's just if you're too heavily into those lower expressions, I think, you'll run into some walls. It's okay. We all do it, but you'll figure out how to overcome that and find your equilibrium. And then once you do that, once you're able to again, find your equilibrium, sort of level up and step into those higher expressions of both the one and the Libra, you're going to be unstoppable. You are going to be unstoppable because, that's such complementary, beautiful energy. Beautiful. And really, people would be drawn to and want to work with one energy who is also Libra. That Libra, again, that peacemaker energy, the very, the diplomatic, that is beautiful, beautiful energy. And then you couple that with a one, and yeah, that's the leader that I would want to work with, right? The very understanding and bringing people together, leading alongside of others, that sort of thing. It's very, very beautiful energy. I would love to hear if any of you have Libra, Sun, Moon, or Rising, and you're also Life Path 1. I'd love to hear, how that looks for you and sort of what you experience. I just think it's very complementary, very, very beautiful energy, especially when you're in your higher vibration. And it's okay if you're not in your highest vibration. It can take a long time. It can take, until you're later in life, until you're able to step into that. It's not something that happens overnight. But just know that when it does happen, you're definitely someone I'd want to work with. That's beautiful, beautiful, powerful energy. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. Take care, everyone. Bye for now. Scorpio, Sun, Moon, Rising. If you are a Scorpio, Sun, Moon, Rising, and you're also a Life Path number 1, then this reading is for you. Scorpio. Okay, so Scorpios are, of course, a water sign. Okay, the higher expression of Scorpio, and you're going to see, I'm going to tie this all in to see how it complements or how it kind of detracts from, right, the energy of the one. So you can kind of see what you're working with. But Scorpio being a water sign, you're very ambitious, you're very determined, you've got this level of bravery. There's a sense of loyalty and honesty that's associated with you. There's this protective nature with Scorpios. Scorpios are very intuitive, very psychic. They can be very independent thinkers. They can be very assertive. There's a lot of emotional depth with Scorpios, even if they don't show it, right? There's a lot going on under the surface in there. Scorpios are often very deeply sensitive and passionate. And so that's the higher expression of Scorpio. And so I want to touch on the higher expression of the one so that you can kind of see how they would work together very, very well. Now remember, Scorpio is a water sign. The one energy is a fire sign. It's more associated with like Leo energy. It's very extroverted energy, where Scorpio can kind of be more withdrawn, I guess, sort of like in, deep, right? Can maybe be introverted at times, although they're very ambitious. But anyway, the one energy is very extroverted. It's very action oriented. And it's a fire sign. So it's very associated, it's the element of fire. And so it's very associated with that energy. And so remember, with Scorpio being a water sign, water can put out fire. So that's just something to keep in mind as we move through the characteristics and the traits of Scorpio and of the one. So if you do have Sun, Moon, Rising Scorpio, and you're also Life Path 1, you can see how best to work with these energies so that you don't put your own fire out, right? So the positive traits of the one, or some of them, are that sort of taking action, taking initiative, being assertive, inventiveness, leadership qualities, independence, willpower and determination, courage, individuality and originality, and this strong drive to achieve. So you can already see the one, how it would be assisted by or complemented by the energies of Scorpio, because Scorpio is very ambitious, it's very determined, right? It's very loyal, it's very honest. You need honesty as a one to be able to gain the trust of the people that you want to invest in you, or that, if you're creating this new project or this big, this thing that's never been seen before, right? You're breaking the mold. You need people to be able to trust you. You have to have that level of honesty. And you have to have that level of loyalty to yourself even and to your project so that when things get difficult, you don't just give up, right? Because of one energy, you are meant to achieve big things in this lifetime that you create. That's the key, right? That you need that fire energy to be able to push you to create something new that's never been done before. That takes a lot of sort of patience and a lot of courage and a lot of ambition. And so again, Scorpio being a very ambitious sign, and very, again, loyal and honest and determined, right? There needs to be a lot of determination with that one energy because, again, if you're doing something that hasn't been done before, then you have to maintain that vision within your heart and stay determined, right? Because you're gonna hit roadblocks. It's just the way it is. But so you have to have that ambitious nature, and you need to have some level of like independent thinking. So again, Scorpio as an independent thinker and assertive, right? That really assists that one energy, that being able to think outside the box, being able to not be easily influenced by others, being able to understand that, this is a problem, I need to find a solution, and the solution might look different than what's already out here. So I need to think independently and be assertive in my actions to get this done, right? So this is really actually beautiful energy. They complement each other very, very well. Because again, you've got that determination, that willpower, and that courage with the one energy, and then it's just backed up by that Scorpio sun, moon, or rising that's really assisting you in getting done what needs to be done, right? And also Scorpio being very sensitive and passionate, it kind of fuels that fire. Even though it's a water sign, it fuels that fire of the one, because it's like if that passion is ignited in you as a one, then you're going to have the determination and the ambition to keep it going, to make it happen, right? So it's actually really, really, really powerful complementary energy. The negative traits, this is where it gets a little bit dicey and where that water could put out your fire. And so you just need to kind of work with that and figure out how to best work with it so that you can find your balance. And if you see that happening where you're like extinguishing your own fire, right, then you can kind of take a closer look and be like, where am I getting in my own way here? What am I doing that's like creating a problem for me not to be able to step fully into my life path, which is one, right? And so the lower expressions of the Scorpio energy have to do with like being stubborn, being manipulative, intolerant, jealous, resentful, aggressive, vengeful, possessive, lack of trust in others, lack of vulnerability, moody, and hypersensitive. So let's just kind of take a look at this real quick. So if you're too stubborn, if you're too intolerant, or too possessive, or any of those things, or lack trust in others, and you've got a life path one energy that you're meant to be gaining the trust of others, you're meant to have an open mind, because if you're too rigid in your thinking, then you're not going to entertain all of the different information and ideas that come in for you to be this inventive person, right? To use your own ingenuity and to be that independent thinker. So again, and if you're too manipulative, right? People are going to feel that. They're going to sense that, and they're not going to want to work with that, right? They're not going to want to be a part of that. And as a one, you are meant to be a leader in some capacity, which means you're going to be, coming across the paths of other people. And so, you can't really have this manipulative energy about you because people can sense when they're being manipulated for the most part, right? With the one energy, the negative traits are being overly assertive, being selfish, being aggressive, being, egotistical, being impulsive. And so again, you can kind of see if you couple those negative traits with the negative traits of the Scorpio, you're working with something that's a little terrifying. It can be a little scary. You've got a lot of aggressive energy there, a lot of vengeful energy that's very intolerant. And so again, as a one, you have to be able to get people on board with you, like to get people to see what you're trying to show them and to buy into it in a sense. Not everybody's going to, and that's fine. But again, the big key component, I think, of the one is like to see where there's a problem, find a solution, and create that solution. And so and a lot of times that solution doesn't exist. And so you have to create it. And so that means you have to be able to work with people. You have to be able to trust people. People have to be able to trust you. You can't be too stubborn. You have to be open-minded. You're meant to be a leader and to lead alongside of others. So it's not a manipulative energy. It's very much about like cohesiveness and working together, even though you're the one like leading the pack, right? It's almost like when you're leading people and they don't know they're being led because you're so good at it and you're so inviting, and it's not a manipulative energy, right? It's just very much like people are on board because they want to be, not because they feel like they're being forced to be, if that makes sense. So those are the energies where you might trip yourself up if you're in your lower expression of your Scorpio or your one energy. And if you are, it's okay. It's not a bad thing. It's just that that's where you're going to start to see a lot of challenges surface, because those challenges are meant to make the experience uncomfortable, and that uncomfortableness will help you to try to find ways to elevate and to move into the higher octaves of those signs, right? Or those energies. And so if you find yourself being too stubborn, then that's your cue to be like, hey, maybe I need to like open my mind here a little bit. Maybe I need to be open to other people's suggestions, other people's ideas. You can still hold your own vision. You can have your own truth, but it's okay to entertain other perspectives, other ideas, whatnot, right? I'm not going to go into a whole lot about like how to overcome those lower expressions. Those are things that, you'll figure out as you move through the challenges. And if as you continue on, if you haven't learned the lesson, it'll come up again. And then eventually you will move into the higher octave. So again, it's like if you're in those lower expressions, that's where I see the Scorpio and the one really sort of fueling each other's fire, but not in a good way. Like where you're basically, the Scorpio energy is putting out the fire of the one energy, and you're keeping yourself stuck, and you're really kind of alienating yourself. And so, but the more you can step into that higher expression of the Scorpio and the one, you have a lot behind you that's very, very complementary. Again, with that being ambitious, that determination, that independent thinking is such a big one. And even like sort of that emotional depthness of the Scorpio, allows for the one energy to not become too detached from self. And so you really are bringing in that sort of more feminine energy of the stillness, of of self, right? Of the soul, of the intuitiveness, of the, because Scorpio energy can be very psychic. They're very sensitive. And so again, you're kind of bringing in that more feminine element into the one energy, which is very heavily masculine. So it's good. Like I said, it complements and balances out very, very nicely. But again, too much water will put out the fire. Too much fire, will, it won't put out the water, but you know what I mean? It's like, it just becomes a polarity in an extreme. And so it becomes unhealthy. But overall, the energies of the Scorpio, Sun, Moon, Rising, and the energy with the one is very, very complementary. I like what it brings in for each other. I like what Scorpio brings into the one energy. I think that it would really help you to facilitate and step into your one life path if you've got that Scorpio, Sun, Moon, or Rising. As long as you can work with and stay aware of when you start to fall into those lower expressions of both the one and the Scorpio. Because that's where you're going to start really tripping yourself up and alienating yourself. And one energy is not meant to be alienated. One energy, again, whether it's the actual person might be more introverted, but the work, the solutions, whatever, those are meant to be extroverted. Those are meant to be out there in the world. And so if you're too, again, sort of intolerant or closed-minded or, too rigid or whatever, then that hinders that. So that hinders that one energy. So, but again, overall, beautiful complementary energy for Scorpio and one energy. just be careful of that stinger. Keep that stinger put away. Or if it comes out, just recognize it, be aware of it, and try to figure out ways to work with it. Okay? All right, Scorpios and ones, take it easy. I'll see you again soon. Bye for now. Sagittarius, if you are a Sag sun, moon, or rising, and you are also a life path number 1, then this is for you. Okay, so Sagittarius is a fire sign. Life path 1 is also a fire sign. So you have a lot of fire going on here. So if you have a life path, or if you have a sun, moon, or rising Sag and a life path 1, you got a lot of fire that you're working with. So Sagittarius, the higher expression of Sagittarius, these are freedom lovers. These are very optimistic, honest, intelligent, people with good sense of humor. They're very fair-minded. They're usually very spontaneous and fun. They're adaptive to change. They're usually very enthusiastic, generous, and playful. If you look at the lower expression of Sag, that can sometimes bring about impatience, being blunt without a filter. So they'll tell you, how it is, no matter how undiplomatic it may be. Sometimes the lower expression of a Sagittarius, they'll promise more than they can deliver, which ultimately creates stress and anxiety for all involved. They can sometimes be inconsistent. They can sometimes be emotionally distant. They can sometimes be reckless with their behavior and sort of get bored easily, right? And so the lower expression, of course, is not a bad thing. It's just what we fall into sometimes, and we face challenges to help us get out of it and to elevate into the higher expression. But those are some of the higher and lower expressions of Sagittarius. And so I want to go over the life path 1, higher and lower expressions, so you can kind of see how they complement each other. I will say again, with Sagittarius being fire and life path 1 being fire, if because that's so much like action energy and expansive energy, if a fire gets out of control, it can move very, very fast, and it can get, can be hard to contain, right? So it can be a lot to work with, is basically what I'm trying to say. And so you will probably have to, especially if you have a lot of Sagittarius, so if you have more than just your sun or moon or rising, if you have all 3, then that's a lot of fire to work with, because you also have fire with the 1. And so you're just going to have to work extra hard at finding ways to bring in that more, feminine energy of stillness, of rest, of relaxation, just so that don't burn yourself out, quite literally, with all that fire, right? So I want to go over the traits of the 1, and then we'll kind of look at each of them so you can kind of see how they complement each other, and then also how they maybe create more of a push and pull energy, or can, again, get that fire out of control. So the 1, again, it's more similar to Leo energy. It is a fire energy. It's more extroverted. Some of the positive traits of the 1 are action-oriented. They take the initiative. They're very assertive. They're very inventive. They have leadership qualities. They're independent. They have willpower and determination to get something done, right? They have the courage that they need to be able to step up and step out in a crowd. They're usually very individualistic and very original in their process and in their ideas. And they also have a strong drive to achieve. So those are the higher attributes, right? Those are the higher traits, higher octave traits. When you look at the lower octave or the negative traits of a 1, they can be overly assertive, they can be selfish, they can be aggressive or overly aggressive. They can be very deep into their ego, or the ego is in control. And they can be very impulsive to the point of too much impulsivity, right? And so if we look at the positives, right? So if we look at the Sagittarius, what Sagittarius brings to the table and how that complements the 1 energy, you have these freedom lovers who are very optimistic, who are very honest and intelligent and, very fair-minded. And now if you're a 1, if your life path is a 1, you need those attributes to be able to help get you out in front of a crowd, to help, to stay optimistic, because for a 1, the ultimate goal ultimately is basically like to see a problem, see an issue, figure out what the solution is for that problem, and then create that solution. And sometimes, most often, that solution has not been created yet, and so they have nothing to go on, or they're doing something completely outside of the norm. And so again, they have to be optimistic, because they're going to hit roadblocks along the way, right? Because this is something that hasn't been done before. They have to be very honest with people about what they're trying to do and like what the potential is of what that is, right? They don't want to like manipulate people or be dishonest, because they're going to need people to buy into it. They're going to need people to, get on board with it. So they need to be very honest about what they're doing. And so that sort of innate honesty that comes with Sag is a key attribute, right? And then that optimistic nature. So again, they need to stay optimistic, because there's a lot that could go wrong on the journey of a 1 when you're trying to invent something that's never been invented before, or do something that hasn't been done before. And so that optimism really comes into play. Same thing with that sense of humor. So Sag has such a good sense of humor, and it's like sometimes you just got to laugh at yourself. And with 1 energy, that's something that Life Path 1 can kind of struggle with, is the sense of humor. Because if something goes wrong for a 1, it's often like, it can feel like the end of the world, or like they can get a lot of self-doubt. And so it helps to have that Sagittarian energy of that good sense of humor to be able to laugh at yourself, laugh at the situation, and move on, right? And then also the fact that like Sagittarius is so adaptable to change. 1 energy, again, both being fire energy, but that 1 energy, you're going to have so much change along the way, because again, you're creating something, you're doing something that hasn't been done before, more than likely, or you eventually will, or some of your challenges will be forcing you to do that. And so you have to be able to be adaptable to change and be okay with, and not let that kind of derail you, right? And to stay playful. That's something I think 1s probably struggle with, especially ones who have maybe more Capricorn or Virgo energy. Those signs I think struggle a little bit more with like being playful and being open to, well, this didn't work out, so let's see what we can do. Let's play and let's create and let's come up with new ideas, right? That's so integral to the success of 1 energy, to be able to be playful and not lose sight of their inner child when they're trying to come up with new ideas, right? And not be too rigid. So in those aspects, that Sag energy is just absolutely beautiful in how it works with helping the 1 to achieve what they want to achieve, to take the initiative, to be assertive, to invent, right? Create and be inventive, and to really step into those leadership, that leadership role, right? Because that also takes like that being fair-minded, being very open and fair-minded. Would you want to work for somebody who's very close-minded, or somebody who's very fair in the way that they think and the way that they act? So again, that Sagittarius energy is assisting beautifully that 1 energy. So you can, because it's a part of you, you'll be able to see how it's almost complementary, where it's like it's assisting you in really stepping into your life path number, which is beautiful. When we look at the lower expressions of both sides of the Sagittarius energy and the 1 energy, you can see how like they can really fuel each other's fire, and not necessarily in a great way, more so in a way that it's going to derail you in some way, and then you're going to face challenges to help get you back on the path, and to assist you to, again, elevate you higher. But with Sag energy, in their lower expression, they can be impatient. You can't be impatient with 1 energy, because again, it's that inventor energy. It's almost like your soul came here because it wants to invent new things. It wants to create new things that haven't been done before. And so that's going to take some patience, right? Like you will find as a 1, you may be very impulsive because the idea comes in, it fuels your passion and you want to jump on it. And that's okay, right? Like 1s are going to be risk takers. That's just the way it is, and that's fine. But you also have to have some level of patience. And so if you're in your lower expression of Sag energy and you've got impatience, and then you're like not seeing things happen as quickly as you want to with that 1 energy, that can just cause issues with your mental, state and all that derails you a bit, right? And also the with the Sag kind of being so blunt with no filter, right? Like, I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think a lot of people love the honesty of Sagittarius, right? It's kind of like, you know what you get, right? You like what you see is what you get type thing. They're not going to kind of bullshit you, I think, which is really great. But with that one energy, again, you also are you're coming up with a solution for people, or for a greater cause. And so you also have to be a little diplomatic. You also have to be able to not alienate yourself or your other people or the project, right? You have to be able to like have a little bit of a filter. It's more about like how you present it, not necessarily like what you say, but how you present it. And so again, it's like if you're in that lower expression of Sag, that can hinder you a little bit with your one energy. And then the promise is more than they can deliver. So I can see that being an issue with one energy because your thinking is so big. Your ideas are so big that you sort of have that idealistic energy. So you think you can do it. You're like, this is not going to be a problem. So you overcommit yourself, right? I can definitely see that Sagittarius energy feeding into the one energy and the one being like, heck yeah, we can do this. Yeah, we'll do it by tomorrow. And it's something that would take like 2 years or something, right? So that can obviously create a lot of stress and anxiety for everybody involved. And so that can also, when that backfires, that can create issues for the one in achieving what it is that they want to achieve, because then they're kind of like taken back because it didn't happen the way they thought it was going to happen, and they start to doubt themselves. And self-doubt can be a big hindrance for one energy. So again, you can kind of see how that can kind of all play in. And then you've also got in the lower expression of Sagittarius, you've got the reckless behavior, right? And so it's kind of like they can get bored easily if things aren't constantly changing or things aren't keeping their attention for very long, right? And so if that reckless behavior comes in and then you couple that with the lower expression of the one, which is impulsivity, then it's like you might just be creating a bunch of things that just aren't going to work, or that like throws you off kilter, or like scatters your energy or scatters your focus, and it could just create issues. So, and that's the thing, like we're always going to fall in and out of our lower expression of our zodiac sign as well as our life path energy. And that's okay. It's just to recognize it. And usually the way we recognize it is because a challenge comes up around whatever that is. And we're just meant to like, pay attention to the challenge, find ways to overcome the challenge, because in doing so, you'll pull the wisdom from it, and then you will elevate yourself up to the higher expression. So, but ultimately, the Sag energy, especially the higher expression and the higher expression of the one, work beautifully together. They really, really work beautifully together. They're great attributes to have of the Sag energy to help motivate and push you and inspire you with that one energy. So it's really, really beautiful. It's just, again, if you fall into those lower expressions, which is the case with all signs, right? But at least you kind of know what you're working with a little bit, right? Especially if you're, if you do have Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, and you're also Life Path 1, if you start falling into those lower expressions, at least you can be aware of what they are, sort of, once you're aware of them, then you can start working with them. You'll pay attention to the challenges, and you can kind of take it back and be like, oh, okay, this is because I'm sort of being reckless here, or maybe I was a little bit undiplomatic and I could have been a little bit more diplomatic, or had a little bit more of a filter, or maybe I'm a little too into my ego right now, or maybe I'm being a little too aggressive or pushy or whatever, right? So yeah, but ultimately I think it's beautiful energy to work together. So if you have that, I think that you're probably very driven, very ambitious, and you will see whatever it is that you set your mind to through to the end, as long as, again, you don't sort of trip yourself up along the way. But beautiful energies overall, absolutely. All right, thanks Sagittarius and ones. I will see you all again soon. Bye for now. Capricorns. Okay, so if you are a Capricorn, Sun, Moon, or Rising, and you're also a Life Path 1, then this reading is for you. So Capricorn, of course, is Earth energy. Life Path 1 is fire energy. And so you'll see how the Capricorn energy really complements the energy of the one, especially in the higher expressions of Capricorn energy, how they really interplay really well. It's almost like the Capricorn energy becomes the fuel for the fire of the one energy. So it's actually really beautiful, really complementary. So let's take a look at the higher expressions of Capricorn as well as the lower expressions, and then we'll do that for the one and see how they kind of play together. So Capricorn in its higher expressions is very ambitious, persistent, practical energy. It's very disciplined. It can be highly sensitive as well. It's very responsible energy. It's usually very self-disciplined, very patient. And I say that, I just want to remind you that this is in their highest expression, right? Because Capricorns can be very impatient, but that's also in their lower expression. So patience is a key element. They can be very organized, very wise energy, very reliable, very creative, and very loyal. In Capricorn's lower expression, we often see sort of more cynical behavior, selfishness, very unforgiving energy. They can be perfectionists. They can be egotistical. They can be more loners, kind of stay to themselves more. They can be overly cautious. They can be pessimistic. And they can also be rarely satisfied, as if nothing is ever good enough type thing. And so you'll see how these characteristics play into the one energy, both good and bad, right? So for ones, if your life path number is a 1, then your energy is often more extroverted. That doesn't mean that you as a person have to be an extrovert. That just means the work that you're meant to put out there is meant to be seen by the world. It's meant to be the output is meant to be extroverted, if that makes sense. So basically at its core, one energy is seeing an issue and coming up with a solution for that issue and then creating that solution, right? And usually that solution has never been created before or doesn't exist. And so that's why that one energy is so extroverted. It has to be out in, to help the greater community, to help the extended family, to help the world, whatever the case may be. Some of the positive traits of the one energy is its ability to take action, right? It's an initiative energy. It's very assertive. It's very inventive. There's leadership qualities associated with one energy. It's very independent. There's a lot of willpower and determination. There's a tremendous amount of courage associated with one energy. Ones are usually very individualistic and they are very original in their ideas and their output. They can also have a very strong drive to achieve, right? So you can already hear the sort of the way that the Capricorn energy and the one energy really play well together, right? The higher expressions. Capricorn, you have that ambitious, persistent, practical, disciplined, highly sensitive, responsible, self-disciplined energy, right? Like if you put a Capricorn on a task, it's going to get done, right? They're going to find a way to do it and they're going to be persistent until it's done. And that really drives that or like fuels that one energy. So again, if you got Capricorn, Sun, Moon, Rising, and you're a 1, you're gonna get done what you put your mind to. I mean, you're gonna find a way. There's no doubt about it. Some of the negative aspects or traits for a 1 have to do with being overly assertive, selfish, aggressive, egotistical, impulsive. So again, you can see if you look at those lower expressions of the Capricorn, which can be cynical, selfish, unforgiving, perfectionist, egotistical, they almost really feed into each other, the negative aspects of both the 1 and the Capricorn. And so you can see how they would, if you're in your lower expression in both your life path and your zodiac sign, you are going to be holding yourself back, right? And you're going to be facing challenges that will try to show you where it is that you're holding yourself back so that you can overcome those challenges, pull the wisdom, and move to the more elevated state or the more positive traits of your sign. And so, yeah, so it's kind of like if you think about it with one energy, and with Capricorn energy, they're very like, again, they're very driven. Their work is more extroverted. Like they're usually working towards something with a greater purpose. And so they're very driven towards that. And so again, you don't want to, in most Capricorns, you will see in some kind of leadership capacity, right? Because they're such workhorses. They're going to excel in whatever they put their mind to. Same thing with one energy. You usually will see when a one person will step into their life path, they're usually in some kind of leadership role, whether that's like a CEO or a manager or an entrepreneur or something like that. And same thing with Capricorn energy. So again, you can see how they like fuel each other, right? But it also, if you're in your lower expression of both Capricorn and one energy, you can see how like, you know, would you want to work for yourself if you're egotistical and overly impulsive or overly assertive or aggressive, right? And so if you're seeing those challenges where it's like you feel more isolated, or you don't feel like you're getting ahead, or you feel like you're sort of stuck in mud, or you keep hitting roadblocks, pay attention to what those roadblocks are, because it could be that you're in your lower expression or your more negative traits of either your one or your Capricorn energies. And that will almost bring things to a halt, right? Because again, you're meant to, both with Capricorn and one energy, be in the forefront of things, like really be that, you know, building those legacies, building those solid foundations. And for one, it's like not only about building the solid foundations, it's about building the things that are going to have a greater impact or help a large population of people, right? Like give solutions to problems. And sometimes that you know, you have to be open-minded and think openly about some of those things. And with Capricorn, sometimes they can be, that energy can be a little bit too sort of in the zone, I guess, or too hyper-focused on certain things, and they become workaholics or whatever, you know. Same thing with one energy. Ones can become workaholics very, very easily. So again, it's just that process of trying to stay open and keep an open mind as much as possible. I think the biggest issue with having heavy Capricorn energy and a one life path is that you are always sort of on the edge of sort of burning yourself out or overworking yourself, or again, being that perfectionist energy. And with one energy, there's no such thing as perfectionism, because you have to be able to, you know, have something fail and not work and not be perfect, because so you can mold it into something that is a better solution, if that makes sense. So again, you can kind of see there's a little bit of push-pull, like the Capricorn energy can kind of pull down the one energy a little bit if it's too rigid, too structured, too I don't know, I guess too reliable. I don't know if that's the word really, but it just, you know, it can, where the one really needs to be very creative and expressive and open-minded to play with a bunch of different ideas to see what works. The Capricorn energy can sometimes be a little bit to have its blinders on, right? And be that perfectionist energy. And so you just got to be careful of that. If you find yourself falling into that, where if something doesn't work and you're beating yourself up about it and you're a one, you just need to find a way to mitigate that energy, because as a one, there's going to be things that don't fail. I mean, you're out there, you are putting yourself out there, and it's like, and you have to keep doing that, you know, until you find what sticks. So you have to really not take things personally and have that courage to keep trying and keep persevering, which again, that Capricorn energy comes in really beautifully because it's such a persistent energy, and it can often see the more practical side of things, where with the one energy, you might need to be a little bit more creative, or a little bit more ingenuitive, if that's a word, with your approach, right? And so they kind of, I think, play nicely with each other. And like I said, it's an earth and a fire energy. And so the earth energy is grounding that one energy. The Capricorn is grounding that one energy. But it's also giving them the fuel, giving yourself the fuel it needs to be able to really step into that one energy, and not just step into it, but be in it for the long haul, right? Capricorn energy is like the goat. It's like, it's going to climb the mountain no matter how big the mountain is. And it's going to do it methodically and take its time and do it however it needs to be done. So it's going to get you there, right? That energy is going to get you there. So it's really beautiful energy to have with the one. The only thing, again, to kind of be mindful of is that it doesn't ground you too much, right? That you don't allow your Capricorn energy to ground you too much or get you so where you're too rigid, or that you think that your idea is the only idea, right? Or the only way of doing things. Because that's the other thing with both Capricorn and one energy, is that you can kind of fall into that sort of more egoic energy where it's like you think my way or the highway. And one energy is really meant, same thing with Capricorn, is really meant to lead alongside of others, not just bark orders, but come up with solutions and then work together as a collaborative team. You might be the one leading the team, but you're open to suggestions, you're open to ideas. So yeah, so as long as you can kind of stay in your more positive, higher elevated traits, and that's the same with everyone, right? It's like the more we can stay in those more elevated expressions of ourselves, the better we are, the more we accomplish. But we're always going to sort of fall in and out of those lower expressions. We just need to be mindful of it and find ways to work with it, right? And move beyond it. So, but overall, the Capricorn energy really does beautifully with the one energy, and it's just great energy to have, like, again, sun, moon, rising. If you have any of those, they really complement the one energy very, very nicely. And you can use those strengths of the Capricorn to really assist you in stepping into the one life path. So yeah, it's really beautiful. I love it. I think it looks really nice. Like I said, except for some of those lower expressions, but those are just things you'll fall into, and then you'll figure out a way to get out of them. And through that, you'll pull wisdom and elevate yourself. So I hope this is helpful, Capricorn and ones, and I will see you all again soon. Thanks. Bye for now. Okay, Aquarians. So if you are an Aquarius, sun, moon, or rising, and also a life path number 1, then this reading is for you. So let's take a closer look at the sign of Aquarius and the higher expression of the sign as well as the lower expression. And then we're going to do the same thing for life path number 1. And then you can sort of see how they work together, as well as where you could feel some sort of push and pull energy with having a sun, moon, rising Aquarius sign, as well as being a life path number 1. Okay. So Aquarius is, of course, an air sign. Life path number 1 is a fire sign. It's got the element of fire, okay? And so you've got air, which feeds and gives life to fire. So already off the bat, we can see that Aquarian energy works really well, or complements one energy very well, right? So let's take a closer look. So some of the higher elevated energy of Aquarius is those with sun, moon, rising Aquarius are often very adaptable to change. They probably see change quite a bit, actually. And they've just sort of learned to be adaptable with it. They're often very esoteric. They're very smart, creative, friendly, independent, very free-spirited, and unconventional. And that's a really key word, unconventional, because I'm going to tie it in with the life path 1 in a minute, but that's really important to be able to do your work as a life path 1, is to be unconventional in your actions and your thinking. Aquarians are also very honest and devoted. They generally have a positive outlook and can be very optimistic, which is also really important for doing life path 1 work. They're often very passionate. They can be very reliable. They can also be very mysterious, and they're definitely freedom seekers, right? They don't like to be contained or restricted. Some of the lower expressions of Aquarius energy is they can have a short attention span, and they can lack focus. And we'll talk about, obviously, why that's an issue or concern when it comes to one energy. They also can lack empathy and be unpredictable or stubborn. They can sometimes be extremists. They can sometimes be aloof, pessimistic, and sometimes they can be overly rebellious and impatient. And so let's take a look at the higher elevated energies or traits of the Aquarius energy and the life path 1 and kind of compare the two. So first let's look at the 1 energies. So again, 1 energy is more similar to that of Leo energy. It's a fire element. Some of the positive traits of 1 energy is that they're very action oriented. They take initiative. They're very assertive. They have sort of inventiveness about them. They have leadership qualities. They're independent. They have a lot of willpower and determination. They have a lot of courage and individuality and originality. They also have a strong drive to achieve. Okay. Some of the lower or negative aspects or traits of the 1 energy is they can be overly assertive. They can be selfish. They can be aggressive. They can be egotistical, and they can also be overly impulsive. So if we take a look at both the positive and positive traits or higher elevated traits of the Aquarian energy, as well as the 1, we can see a lot of sort of why they work so well together, right? So 1 is that energy of action, of again, having that strong drive to achieve. Basically, you can think of 1 energy as they find the issue or, something that's not working or the problem, right? And they come up with the solution, and then they actually create the solution. And a lot of times that solution doesn't already exist. So they have to be very innovative in their approach. And so part of the purpose of a life path 1 is to find those solutions to the problems of humanity, of the bigger picture, right? Of the greater community, of the world, whatever the case may be. So if you think about that and what that means and what that could potentially look like, and you look at the higher expression of the Aquarius energy, adaptable to change, right? You need to be adaptable to change because things are going to be constantly changing for a life path 1, because they constantly have to be evaluating and figuring out what works and what doesn't work to come up with the solution to the problem or the problems, right? So that adaptability to change is so important and such a beautiful complement to that 1 energy, and really, again, gives life to the 1 life force, right? And again, Aquarius energy is also very esoteric, or they can be very specialized, right? Like if there's something that draws their attention, they can just go, gangbusters on it. They can be, and a lot of times what they'll focus on is outside the norm of society, right? Like outside the norm of what everybody else is doing. They can be very specialized in things that other people are not specialized in, that again are outside the box. A lot of Aquarius energy can feel like they're on the outside looking in. They can feel like they don't belong, right? And so that complements the 1 energy, because 1s can often feel that way as well. Again, they are meant to create something that hasn't been done before, and so they have to be very vulnerable in that sense and stand out. And sometimes they're going to feel very isolated in that they are standing on the outside looking in. And so again, that is very similar to how you feel if you have an Aquarius sun, moon, or rising. Aquarians are very smart. Again, they're very creative. And again, that complements that 1 energy to be creative, to, again, think outside the box, to be adaptable. And that free-spirited, unconventional energy is beautiful energy for a 1. Because again, you as a 1, if you pigeonhole yourself, if you confine yourself to a box, right, to the box that society wants to put you into, you will never fully step into your life path 1 energy, because you are meant to be free-spirited. You are meant to be unconventional in your thinking. You're meant to be sort of independent in your thinking, so that you can create something that, down the road, people might see like, oh, wow, this is something I need, or this helps. But in the process of building whatever that is, there's going to be people that don't understand, that don't buy in, that don't, that ridicule you or judge you or whatever. And you have to, again, sort of be that free spirit where you can be like, keep going in the face of adversity, keep going, when people are trying to make you be conventional, you're meant to be unconventional. You're meant to think outside the box, okay? And that Aquarian energy will really assist you in that process, which is beautiful. Also, Aquarius energy is very much, again, they're very passionate and reliable, but they're also those freedom seekers, right? They don't want to be confined. And with one energy, if you are working for somebody and they basically don't allow you to have some kind of creative voice or express yourself creatively, or don't listen to what you have to say, you are confined, you are restricted at that point, because one energy is meant to be, again, the leaders in the leaders of the pack, right? The visionaries, the ones who are using their ingenuity to invent something. And invent is the key word, right? Like, you're meant to build something that hasn't been built before, or come up with a solution that hasn't been presented before. And to do that, you have to be a freedom seeker. You have to be able to think independently, but also with an open mind and with an expansive nature, so that you can take a bunch of ideas and throw them against the wall and see what sticks, and then take those ideas that stick and then see how they work together, right? So it's very expansive energy. It's also very mysterious energy, which is also very Aquarian. So you can see how they all kind of work together. It's like the things that make Aquarius Sun, Moon, Rising very unique are fuel for the fire of that life path 1. So it's like that, those things that, maybe if you were more Capricornian, or if you were had more Virgo energy or something like that, where you're more grounded and a little bit more rigid, or have a tendency to be, those can sometimes restrict one energy. Whereas the Aquarius energy, with its expansiveness and its positive outlook and its optimism and its unconventional thinking and its freedom seeking, those energies, again, fuel that fire, like push the one forward. So if you chose to come into this lifetime as a life path 1 with Aquarius Sun, Moon, or Rising, you set yourself up to really be the whole package, right? Like, to have the adaptability and sort of the forward thinking and the sort of abstract thinking that you need to be able to come up with the solutions that you have to think outside the box in order to come up with, right? If that makes sense. So it's actually really beautiful complementary energy, Aquarius and life path 1. Now, where it can get a little bit tricky is if you fall into your lower expression of the 1 and also the lower expression of Aquarius, right? Because Aquarius will have sometimes, when they're in their lower expression, that shorter attention span or lack of focus. And ones really need to be focused. Like, they really need to have the vision, hold the vision, even when things get challenging. And sometimes with Aquarius energy, it's like, if things get a little bit, if their energy is scattered and things get challenging in one area, they'll just shift to the other area and just move in a different direction. But really, with one energy, you have to have that like sort of laser focus, even though you have to have a broader scope in how you think about things and how you incorporate things and all that stuff. You have to, if you're scattered or losing focus, that's going to hinder you. That's going to slow you down. And so if you're in that lower expression of Aquarius energy, that can kind of be an issue. Also, the unpredictability, the stubbornness, the extremist, the, being pessimistic or aloof, that can also be, that can kill the energy of the 1, because that pessimism, again, it's like if the 1 tries something, if the 1 in you wants to try something and you go for it and it doesn't work out, if that Aquarian energy comes in and is very pessimistic, brings with it that pessimism, that can bring in self-doubt, right? And that can slow you down. The impatience of the lower expression of the Aquarius energy can be an issue, because as a 1, you're going to have some, you're going to be impulsive. You're going to take risks. You're going to have to, you're going to want things done quickly, and you're going to want them done right. You've got that fire energy behind you of the 1. So if you become impatient, right, or overly rebellious with that lower expression of Aquarius, that can also hinder you, because it can cause you to sort of give up or get down on yourself or overlook something that maybe you need to see in this invention, whatever this invention is, right? Impatience is going to cause you to, again, miss the finer details that you need to see. So if you find yourself, something comes in and you've got that fire energy of the one and you want to get started and you've got the courage and you go for it, but it's not happening quite as quickly as you want to because, this is life and things don't happen immediately for the most part. And you start to feel that impatience coming through from your Aquarius energy. You just need to remember that, or that pessimism, you just need to kind of remember that, that's just the lower expression coming up. And if you feed into that, it's going to slow you down even more. So it's just a matter of recognizing when you fall into, even when you fall into extremes. Remember that lower expression of Aquarius can be falling into extremes. And so that can also trip you up as a one, because again, you don't want to fall into extremes as a one energy, because you need to be open to all perspectives, all options, right? All opportunities as you build whatever this is. Because if you're too focused on an extreme, or you're too within an extreme, you're going to miss all of that other yumminess from that other polarity, right? So it's really about finding that balance. But, there's going to be times where you're going to be in your lower expression of both your Aquarius energy and your one energy, and it's going to be tough, right? Like there's going to be challenges that will surface to help move you out of that and to pull some wisdom from that so that you don't necessarily fall into it again. But this is life, and we fall in and out of our lower expressions all the time. I don't think there's any way to truly master that so that you don't. The only difference is that you start to recognize when you start falling into that lower expression, and then you eventually will have the tools accumulated to be able to help move you out of it, right? Move you back up to your higher expression. And then in that higher expression is where that Aquarius energy works so beautifully with that one energy, right? So when you're in your lower expression, you're going to feel, it's not going to be, I don't think, so much of a push and pull for you all, as much as it's going to feel like things are just at a dead stop, or you lose your motivation, you lose your creative juices, you again get very hard on yourself, you beat yourself up, all those things. It's more like a slowing down when you're in your lower Aquarius energy and your lower one energy. Some zodiac signs with the one energy, you can actually see a push and a pull. When you're in your lower expressions, it's going to be very challenging. For you all, I think it's going to also be a little challenging because it's going to just slow things down and you're going to feel restricted. And, with that Aquarius energy, you're not going to like that. And then you're going to become rebellious, and then, and it's just going to sort of snowball. So anyway, my point being, it's Aquarius energy with one energy is beautiful. It works very, very well together. It complements each other very, very well. It just opens things up for you in a way that the one, if you didn't have the Aquarius energy, you might not be as expansive. You might not be as overly creative, right? You might not be as free-spirited and open to trying new things that are outside your comfort zone, which I think one needs to be able to do. So it's very, very beautiful complementary energy. It's just be aware of those lower expressions, and when you see things come to a halt or you start to hit challenges that feel like they're restricting you, it may be because you've fallen into one of the lower expressions of either the one or the Aquarius energy or both. And so then you just kind of move through the challenges that surface to help you move out of it, acquire those tools and that wisdom so that you can kind of, again, move out of it more quickly if you fall into it down the road. But overall, love Aquarius energy. I have my moon in Aquarius, and so I definitely love this kind of energy. And with the one, I just think that it's setting you up for a lot of success. Okay, as long as you can find your moderation, find your balance and continue to find that and not fall into the extremes, I think you're really going to have a fun ride throughout this lifetime with this Aquarius energy and this one energy sort of working together. So I hope this was helpful, you all. Thank you so much for listening. Take care. Bye for now. Pisces. Okay, so if you are a Pisces sun, moon, or rising, and you're also a life path number 1, then this reading is for you. So what I want to do is take a look at the higher expressions of Pisces as well as the lower expression. And I'm going to do that for the Life Path 1 as well, so that you can see how the energies of Pisces complement the energies of the 1, or how they create some kind of turmoil or push and pull, or just sort of halt your progress. And so you can be aware of it, since these are energies within you, so that you can figure out how to work with them, right? All right, so let's take a closer look. So Pisces is, of course, a water element. And the higher expression of Pisces, we see that they are highly adaptable, that they are visionaries, that they're very kind and gentle. They're highly intuitive and oftentimes psychic. They're very creative, they're empathetic, they're generous, they are emotionally mature, they can be very laid back and agreeable. If we look at the higher expressions of the 1, well, first of all, 1 energy is a fire element, okay? And so it's more like Leo energy. It's very extroverted energy. But with that fire element, right off the bat, we know that too much water will put out the fire, right? And so that tells us that we need to make sure that we're continuously finding our balance if we have a lot of Pisces energy and we're a Life Path 1, right? We just need to continue to find our balance. However, if we look at the positive traits of the 1, combined with the positive traits of the Pisces, we see that they actually work really, really well together and feed off of each other. So for the 1, the positive traits, we have, very action-oriented, taking initiative, being very assertive, being inventive, leadership qualities, very independent, having a lot of willpower and determination, having a lot of courage, having a lot of individuality and originality, and then also having that strong drive to achieve. So again, very fire elements, right? If we look at those two, we look at the Pisces energy as well as the positive traits of the 1 energy, the Pisces being highly adaptable, right? That's going to be key for a 1 as you're going through constant change. The way that I describe looking at 1 energy is to think of it as there being a problem, the 1 is going to find the solution and create the solution. And oftentimes that solution doesn't exist. And so the 1 needs to be inventive to find the solution. And oftentimes where that being extrovert comes in is that solution often will have impact on the greater community, the greater nation, the greater world, right? And so that's where that extrovert energy comes in. So you can see where it's like, if that's the purpose sort of the 1, is to find the problems, find the solutions, and then create the solutions, right? Not just figure out what the solution is, but actually create the solution. There's a lot of innovativeness that needs to come in, right? There's a lot of assertiveness that needs to come in, and a lot of it being inventive, right? You're inventing something that's going to work. But you have to be highly adaptable because, it's not always going to work the first time. It's not even going to work the second or third or fourth or fifth time. And so you have to be adaptable to be able to change directions quickly, or be able to, if things don't work out, to understand that it's not the end of the world. It's actually just redirecting you into a path that does work. So being highly adaptable is super complementary from that Pisces energy. Also being a visionary. Pisces are known to be visionaries, right? They're very creative. And that, of course, goes without saying, because 1 energy, they are the visionaries of numerology. They're the ones that are going to come up with a vision, hold the vision, and then create the vision, right? And create something tangible from that vision. And so with that, if you have Pisces, Sun, Moon, or Rising, then that energy is just assisting you in really stepping into your life path fully. And with that being so kind and gentle, and intuitive and psychic, that really assists the 1 in not sort of steamrolling people with their ideas and not fully falling into their ego, where they're, taking other people's needs into consideration. It's not just like finding a solution for yourself. It's like finding a solution that's going to help the greater community, that's going to help the world, right? Something bigger than you. And so if you have that sort of more kinder, gentler demeanor that comes from that Pisces energy, then it's like people are more willing to work with you and listen to you or buy into your ideas or whatever the case may be. And then with that intuitive energy, if you're more likely to follow your intuition, then you're not going to get sort of sidelined or derailed by the influence of others, right? And so again, that Pisces energy really comes in to assist you and remind you. I mean, it's really like bringing in the feminine with this more masculine energy of the one. And so it's like just being that intuitive and listening to the inner compass. When it comes to making these very courageous decisions as a one, you can really pull from your Piscean energy to assist you in that, right? To give you that sort of internal courage to follow your own guidance system, right? It's very complementary. It's very beautiful. And also, like I said, Pisces are very creative. Every Pisces I know has a very creative bone in their body. Like they're very, into crafts or art or music or, whatever. But there's a very creative core to them, which again comes in handy with this one energy where you're meant to be creative, right? You're meant to create something that will assist people, right? That will solve problems. So that's very, very beneficial. And then also like the generosity and the more like laid back and agreeable energy. Again, as a one, you are meant to be in a leadership role. And think about the people who you have worked for before or who have led you before. Are you more drawn to those people who are stuck in their ego and just barking orders at you? Or are you going to be more drawn to those people who are agreeable and more laid back and easier to work with, right? As a one, you're going to be asked to step into some kind of leadership role, whatever that may look like for you at some point in your life. And you want to make sure that you are, people can work with you, right? And so not being overly agreeable where you're like a doormat, but you want to be agreeable and easy to work with, right? Like emotionally mature. And so again, that Pisces, those higher octaves of Pisces really play in beautifully with the fire energy of the one. So beautiful, beautiful energies. Now, when we look at the lower expressions of both, that's where you can see that the Pisces water can put out the one flame, right? And so you just want to be careful of that and be mindful of that. Now, in life, we fall in and out of our lower expressions all the time, right? Like it's very difficult to master that and say, I never show up in my lower expression. That's not necessarily true because we're human, we have emotions, we have experiences that are going to throw us into those lower expressions because that's where the challenges are. That's where the learning is. That's where the growth is. But it's through those lower expressions that we face those challenges and then we can find ways to overcome the challenges, pull out those tools from those challenges and the wisdom to hopefully elevate us into our higher expression until we fall into the lower expression again and go through some challenges. And then eventually it gets to the point where it's like you can move more quickly out of those lower expressions because you have the tools and the wisdom to be able to do so a little bit more quickly, right? So when we look at the lower expressions of Pisces, we have sort of this energy of being like overly emotional, sort of like crippled by their emotions, very hypersensitive, very overly trusting to where they can be easily swayed or influenced. And I just want to mention, already we can see how that can be an issue for that one fire energy. Because if you're hypersensitive or overly emotional as a one, you're gonna struggle because you have to put yourself out there. You have to put you have to think outside the box and then put those unconventional, ideas out into the world, right? And if you can't take criticism, if you can't take people judging you or whatever, again, we're human, it happens. If you can't take that, then it's going to hinder your progress. You're going to have a very difficult time putting yourself back out into the spotlight. And as a one, you are meant to be out there, right? Or at least your work is meant to be out there. Those solutions are meant to be out there. And so again, you have to have sort of not thicker skin, it's okay to like feel whatever comes up for you, obviously, but you have to be able to let it roll off your back, I guess, sort of like those critiques, those judgments. So again, if you're too hypersensitive to other people's opinions or again, criticisms, it's going to be difficult for you. You would have a chance, you could fall into a situation where you take things too personally, right? And as a 1, you have to put yourself out there type thing. And you're going to feel that push and pull, right? It's kind of like that's going to be a challenge for you. So that's where that comes in, to figure out how to mitigate and work with that energy. And again, these are the lower expressions of Pisces. So you're not going to be, sitting in this forever. It's just that that's where your challenges are going to come up when you do fall into it. Pisces can also, and I also want to mention the part about being easily swayed or influenced. That is also an issue for a 1, because again, you're meant to be the inventor. You're meant to be the visionary who's out in the front, making the mistakes in the public eye, and not letting it derail you, but figuring out another way around it. Remember, you're looking for the solutions. And so if you're easily influenced or swayed by others, then that's going to be an issue, because it's going to take you off your path. You are meant to be the visionary. And if you're swayed by others, you're not the visionary anymore. You are fitting into the mold, right? And so again, what that would do is sort of halt your progress, and it would be up to you to figure out, okay, I'm not going anywhere. Nothing is working. I don't feel creative anymore. Like, what's going on? And you could kind of tie it back to, I've fallen into the mold of society when I meant to be breaking the mold, right? Pisces also, when they're in their lower expression, can be really closed off emotionally, right? They can move into an element of escapism or victim mentality, and they can also be moody. And so one thing I want to point out is the escapism. If you're in your lower expression of Pisces and you are trying to escape, your reality or the situation or whatever the case may be, that's going to hinder your 1 energy, because again, you signed up to be this front runner, to be this leader. There may be times that it's very challenging and you want to escape that. The Pisces lower expression will be assisting you in escaping that, but it's not helping you. It's not helping you step into your 1 energy. It's actually pulling you away from that. So again, you just want to be mindful of, if you find yourself like here but not here, right? Like mentally or physically, you're like, I just want to go, leave wherever I'm at, in the city or whatever, and I want to move into the middle of nowhere where nobody can ever find me, that's escapism, and that's going to be an issue for a 1, right? You are meant to, regardless of where you live, even if you live in the woods, your work somehow has to get out there, right? Like, your purpose is to be in the public sphere in some capacity, whether it's again, it doesn't have to be necessarily you, but it can be your work. And so, but yeah, so anyway, those are some of the lower expressions of Pisces and how that can influence the 1. Now, if we look at the lower influence or lower traits of the 1, we have this like over-assertiveness, selfishness, aggressiveness, egotism, impulsiveness. And what's interesting, it's like the lower expression of the Pisces is much softer. It's sort of like the emotive side, right? It's the more feminine side. It's almost like, it's sort of like wounded feminism, right? Like, it's sort of the wounded feminine. And so, and then the 1 energy, if you look at the negative traits, it's like the wounded masculine. And so if you're in both your lower traits of a 1 and your lower traits of a Pisces, you've got sort of this battle between the wounded masculine and the wounded feminine. And that's just going to create this like massive push and pull for you. And you can just feel like, there's 2 sides of yourself and they're not seeing eye to eye. And so it can feel very, very uncomfortable and very challenging. So, I don't think there's going to be a ton of times probably that you're in both at the same time, because I think that they'll work together. Those energies will work together to help, elevate you, because that's the whole point, right? Is you face these challenges, and then something within you has to help you to elevate beyond the challenge, to pull the wisdom and pull the tools so that you can, move forward. But just so that you know, if you are in both the lower expression of your 1 and your Pisces energy, you're going to feel some major push and pull. You're going to feel some major like polarities within yourself, and it can feel like a struggle. It can feel like a power struggle almost. Almost like a really bad relationship between, feminine and masculine, where it's like, and it's nothing to do with gender. It's all that feminine energy and masculine energy. But if you're in that kind of relationship where it's like wounded masculine, wounded feminine energies coming together, that can be incredibly toxic and very challenging. And so again, where the Pisces energy can really assist the one energy when you're in your higher octave, if you're in your lower octave, you can see where that water is just trying to put out that fire, and that fire is trying to overtake the water. And it's just, it's not a good combination. So, in what you'll do as you move through the process is move through the challenges, you'll figure out like, okay, I feel like maybe I'm being too impulsive here. Maybe I need to take it down a few notches. Or if you're too in your lower expressions of Pisces, you can be like, okay, I am definitely falling into victim mentality here. I need to find a way to not use whatever this is as a crutch, but to elevate myself beyond it and find my own empowerment. And, kind of move through that. So you can kind of look to see like what lower expression you're in, and whether it be through Pisces or through the one, and then take a notice of the challenges that are coming in for you, because those challenges are going to highlight for you where it is that you're in your lower expression, which lower expression are you in, and then working through those challenges and elevating yourself is how you will, again, pull the wisdom, pull the tools from that experience so that you can move much more quickly to an elevated state, right? And then that fire and water actually work really well together. So, so again, if in the highest expression of the two, Pisces and the one, they actually work really, really beautifully together. They're very balanced feminine, masculine energies, it looks like. It's just when you fall into those lower expressions that you're going to feel that tug of war, and it can feel like a battle, and it can feel really, really challenging. So, So I would love to hear how, if you do have Pisces, Sun, Moon, or Rising, and your life path one, sort of how you feel that's impacted your life, or how you kind of see that surface and how you see those energies working together. I'd be really curious to find out how you work with it personally. So you can leave that in the comment section below if you feel comfortable doing so. I'd love to hear. All right, I hope this has been beneficial and helpful for you. I will see you all again soon. Take care. Bye for now.